The reason I like to use intentions is because it carries a different frequency. We can call on our body's wisdom, our heart, our womb, our intuition, our feeling senses, because our body has a lot to say about everything. And when we start the year off by creating an intention that's feelings-based and tuning into what our body thinks, we are so much more likely to set the right intention, but then we're so much more likely to achieve it as well, because our body wants it. Our body believes it's possible, and feeling-based intentions hold a stronger frequency. It's really important to remember that words hold frequency and are spells. What you call in is what you will get. Careful what you wish for. Welcome to the Wildflow podcast with me, Charlotte Pointeaux, certified cycle and feminine embodiment coach and shamanic womb guide. In this podcast, I'll share my wisdom and conversations with powerful change makers, thought leaders, and embodied teachers to invite you to live cyclically in flow with your menstrual cycle instead of fearing it, to heal menstrual shame and normalize womb wisdom and period positivity, and to step into your sovereign magnetic power to create and embody the change you desire to see in your world. Settle in to unleash your wild flow. Hello, loves, and welcome to our first episode of Wild Flow for the new year, 2023. How are you? I hope you had a beautiful Christmas, that you had a great new year, that you've had a big rest and some inward time for really letting the end of the year sink in before thinking about the new year. So today I'm coming to you for a solo episode to share with you what's been really present for me for the last couple of weeks, probably longer as well, actually. Thinking about the end of the year, seeing lots of people talking about intentions, resolutions, goals, words for the year. And I just really want to bring to you an alternative if you feel that you're not ready or you haven't been able to get clarity on what your intention or word of the year might be, just to offer you an alternative way to think about coming into the year, something that's more cycle aligned, more body wise and intuitive, and also on a deeper level to just what comes to us on the surface when we think of a word or what this year might be for us. So first of all, it's really important to recognize where we're at in the cycles. So the end of one year is the ending of a cycle, of the annual cycle. So the calendar that we have in the Western world is the Gregorian calendar, and that's a relatively new calendar. That is one that has been created to support this more modern, busier, industrialized way of living, really. But before that, the calendar didn't used to revolve around the sun. It used to revolve around the moon. And as we know, in other traditions and cultures and religions, the new year doesn't start on January the 1st. It starts at different points. And just for example, the Chinese New Year starts in late January with the new moon, the first new moon of the year. And I think that that's really helpful to come back to, because when you think about the end of the year, it depends on which hemisphere you're in as to whether it really feels like you're at the end of the year and what the ending really means. So in the northern hemisphere, we have got winter solstice, and that is the 21st of December. So that's pretty close. That's like a week out from New Year. So I think that can feel like a real ending point, which feels aligned, I think. The ending of the year, the ending of the sun's darkest night, the longest night is winter solstice. And then the day after the winter solstice, the days start to slowly, gradually lengthen again. So that might feel true for you. In the southern hemisphere, we're a complete disconnect from that because it's summer solstice, which is the longest, brightest day, the most hours of sunlight. And so having that at this point of the end of the year is actually not true. It's midway through the year. But how many of us actually begin our year, maybe creatively or with intentions, maybe spiritually, in June, which would actually be the new year sunwise in the southern hemisphere? We don't, do we? So when we have this idea of the year ending, it can actually feel like it's not in the right energy for us. Then, if you think about winter, so even if you do take this time as a winter time, we're not meant to just hit death and then be reborn immediately. We don't get to this deep inward phase, this slowness, this hibernation that winter brings, and that the end of the year should bring, and then suddenly sprint out of the blocks again on the 1st of January. No, the cycle teaches us. And if you look at nature, all the clues are in nature. Winter goes beyond that. Winter in the northern hemisphere doesn't end until February sort of time. The first flowers don't really come up until March. That is when new life is meant to be emerging. What we're actually meant to be doing is having an incubation period to feel into what this year is going to hold, to re-energize, to replenish, to create plans in the background, to really sink into our sense of what's unfolding before we start rushing around. So I want to bring this to you, this cycle wisdom, when you're thinking about New Year intentions or even resolutions, if that's something that you think of at this time, to just offer you this place of space, to offer you a way to really come into your body, to offer you a way to think about reframing, redoing this this practice. So if the rebirth comes with the new year, regardless of what season you're in, regardless of which hemisphere you're in, we're actually meant to allow some time and space. So if you have gone straight back to work, then that's going to feel a bit of a challenge for you potentially to just get going again, get straight out the blocks. And instead of having this resting time, this incubation time. So in terms of coming at this intentional time, what I think can be really, really lovely to do is to, instead of think of the 1st of January as this time to get going, is to, why not work with the moon? So we had a new moon, I think it was around Christmas time. We've just had full moon last week, early in January, and the next full moon is not coming until later on in January. Right now, as I'm recording this and as this becomes live for you, we're actually in the waning moon phase. And this is a perfect thing, I think, a perfect energy to work with. So thinking about how you might have already started your year so far, the waning moon is a chance to come into reflection, to distill wisdom, to clarify, to sift the gold out of what's working and what's not working. And the reason why I think that we can do this right now is because so many of us start, like I say, this new year in this like go, go, go energy. We might set intentions or resolutions, as we've always been taught to do by popular culture. But actually, what happens with these is they're not aligned. They're not true for us. They're usually the things we think we should be doing. What do we think we should be doing? Resolutions have lots of problems associated with it. They can bring a lot of pressure. They set us up for you've got to start as you mean to go on, go, 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 go. And if you stumble at any point, if you're not consistent all the time, you've failed. And then as soon as you think you've failed, poof, disappears. That energy, that focus, that motivation disappears in a puff of smoke. Instead, we need to really bring cycle wisdom to this process. Instead of having resolutions, which I think just have an external pressure on us, some people are thinking of words of the year. So, again, I think these have pros and cons. I think it's great to have a vision for your year. I think it's great to have focus. I think it's great to be thinking about what you want to call in and cultivate for yourself. But this is becoming quite a trend as well. I have also found that coming up with a single word for the year, it's quite shallow, it's quite limited. This word, I totally forgot my word by like maybe February or March last year. I really had to rack my brains at the end of this past year, like in the last couple of weeks. I was like, what was my word for last year? What was it? I think I still can't quite remember. I think it was devotion. I'm not quite sure. So for me, this doesn't really work. When I've been thinking about what my word for this year, 2023, might be, I felt really limited because there's actually quite a few words that are coming up for me. So I think that, having a word of the year, yeah, can be great, can be really helpful. But I also think there are several cons with it as well. I think it's really helpful to instead use an embodied intention setting process, which is actually my coaching process. This is what I actually do in the very first session with my private Wild Feminine Cycle coaching clients. And I'm like, why wouldn't I do that for myself for the year? Why wouldn't I talk about this with you all and share this process with you all for the year? Of course, it just makes total sense to me. So the reason I like to work with intentions instead of goals for anything, and you might set your embodied intention for a particular project, for a phase of life, for like a specific time or a piece of work, or like, a month or whatever, a cycle, but you can also use it for the year. The reason I like to use intentions is because it carries a different frequency to goals. Goals, I think, can be quite masculine. They can be quite rigid and set. The idea of SMART goals, which helps us to think about making them more achievable, smart, measurable, actionable. Can't even remember what R is, and time focused, realistic. That's the R, realistic. So, this idea of SMART goals is helpful, but I still think that whenever I have set goals with clients before, they've got into this energy of you either succeeded it or you fail. For me, goals carry this energy of consistency, which can be helpful, but it can also be troublesome. Because when you set goals, what I've noticed is that the women who I've worked with in the past have felt like once they've set the goal, it can't be changed. It has to be true. And if it no longer feels quite right for them, then there's something wrong with them. And if they don't complete this goal in the achieved in the prescribed time frame, then they've failed. And the last thing we want to do is cause anyone to feel like a failure. What I think is a far more feminine approach is, instead of working with goals, which again for me feel quite heady, quite masculine, quite analytical, quite prescribed, and inflexible, is I like to bring intentions which to me feel like they have a more feminine energy with them, where they can be more feelings based, more feelings based. So, how do you want to feel instead of what do you want to achieve? How do you want to feel? What do you want to call in or create? What would help you to feel your most, whatever it is? What inspires you? I also think that they can be more personalized. So it gets you out of comparing or judging yourself or criticizing yourself or comparing yourself against anyone else, or where you think you should be. And it brings you into presence. I think it brings you into presence, into the present moment, into what feels true for you, not anyone else. And we can also bring our bodies online, along for the ride. We can call on our body's wisdom, our heart, our womb, our intuition, our feeling senses, because our body has a lot to say about everything. And when we start the year off or anything off by creating an intention that's feelings based and tuning into what our body thinks, we are so much more likely to set the right intention, but then we're so much more likely to achieve it as well, because our body wants it. Our body believes it's possible. Our body's on board and motivated, and feeling based intentions hold a stronger frequency for you than head based goals. So I'm going to guide you through my embodied intention setting process that I share with my coaching clients to help you to vision into your year ahead using cycle wisdom, your body's wisdom, and your feeling wisdom, allowing your body to communicate to you through the language of sensations to help you create and craft this intention that's going to inspire you and journey with you for the year. So let's do that. And just a few more words to share with you about this process before we begin. If we know that all things are energy, we know that words are spells. Words are spells. Words hold frequencies. When you say a word, so listen to me, say the word peach. That's going to land in your body, and your body is going to feel something and respond to that differently to the word when I say the word storm. You see how they have different energies. Or joy, or ocean versus other words like achieve. Just for example, words off the top of my head. When you hear words, they land in your body, the energies of these words, and they speak to you. They inspire you differently. Your body reacts differently to these words. So we're going to be really cautious about the words that we use. And I think it's really powerful to create an affirmation or a statement or a mantra, something like that, that allows you to use more than just one word. When you bring that one word to life, you're quite limited. But when you use multiple words, words that each hold a frequency that means something and inspires you, You get to paint a richer picture with more colors, and that is far more powerful. So if you feel good and able, let's do this together. Let's take some time and think about this year ahead. And I'm going to do just a very abbreviated version. You can take much more time to do this for yourself. So have a pen and paper with you whenever you do this. And the first thing that I want you to do is just notice where in your cyclical self you are today. So, as I said, right now, it's waning moon. And this is all about reflecting, distilling, coming back more inwards from the outwards that the festive season can be. This is why I think now's a really good time to be doing this. We've moved past that new year. It's not quite that intensity. It's not quite that, got to get a word, got to get a word. It's like, can we sit on that? Can we sit on that and give ourselves space? So if you're listening now and that's the moon, notice that. If it's a new moon, that's a great time as well, because that's like the winter, the visioning time. If you're in your spring or summer, you might feel more intense about this process, for example. So just notice where you are if you have a menstrual cycle as well, because this is going to influence. So you might be in your ovulation time, and that's just like the full moon. So that's that intense time. If you're in your own premenstrual time right now, like I am, then that can really help you to be in that distillation, reflective energy. You might also want to do this while you're bleeding. Wherever you are, there's no right or wrong time. It's just about noticing what your own body's energy, where you're at in your cycle, because that will inform potentially your outlook, how you feel about this. So, with that being said, take some breaths, close your eyes, and drop into your body. And you can spend as long as you like here doing this. You want to breathe in through your nose and draw your breath down to your womb space. Breathing deeply and slowly. And as you breathe in, call yourself to be fully present in the here and now in your body. And as you breathe out, exhale any tensions, any thoughts, any busyness, and come to softness and stillness. And when you feel landed, you can pause this at any time. If you want to spend extra time dropping in, you might want to place your feet, push down into the ground. Feel your body supported on your seat, wherever you are, and just really come into your body in the here and now. And from this place, bring awareness to any hopes that you have for the year. What it is that you want to cultivate. What this year is about for you. And can you discern the difference between what's true for you, not what the generic or external pressures, the external standards of success are? What's true for you? And as you notice this and think on this, notice how your body feels as thoughts move through your mind. Notice which thoughts evoke pressure or tightness, busy, hurried thoughts. And if there are any other thoughts that do the opposite, where your body softens breathes and sinks into with space. Just notice different words, how your body responds. So when you think about these potential words of the year, maybe you've chosen one. What's the word for the year that you've chosen? And just say that to yourself. Even better if you can say it out loud. Say your word and just notice how your body reacts. What sensations can you feel in your body when you say this word? Where in your body do you feel those sensations? What's it like? Tightness, ickiness, closing up, constricting, or expanding, opening, enlivening, tingling, pleasure, excitement. What is it? So if you've got a word that makes you feel any sense of constriction, it's the wrong word. Even if in your head you're going, that's a great word, that doesn't light the spark inside you somewhere, it's not actually the right word. It's a should. If, on the other hand, you've got a word that makes you feel alive, beautiful. You've found something there that's worth keeping. What I'm going to invite you to do is just give yourself permission to play. Are there any other words that you actually might like to include in your vision for your year? Can you dabble? Oh, what might it mean to have more than one? What might it mean to have a few? I want you just to spend some time feeling into any and all words, keywords that inspire you. And for each one, hold that word, say that word, tune into your body where you feel it. Write down any words that feel good. Cross off any ones that don't. And when you've got all the words that you want, I'd like you to consider crafting them into an affirmation, a sentence, a phrase, a paragraph, if you like. Let's take away rules. You might like to spend some time pausing this episode and trying out different ways of crafting these words together. Craft your spell. What might it be? It might be an I am. Make it in the present, like you would an affirmation, because that draws you into feeling that you're already there. You're already embodying, expressing. You're already there. This isn't future you. This is present you now. Helps you to call it in. I am, or I, something in the present. And take your time. This might take you 5 minutes. This might take you an hour. This might take you days. Why does it need to be in a rush? Let yourself play and come back. And when you think you've got your affirmation, read it out to yourself. Read it out and notice where in your body you feel it, where it feels resonant, and how it feels. Is it expansive or restrictive? And change out any words you need to change. And when you feel good and ready, that you have your affirmation, your intention for the year. Just notice if it has a shape, a color, even texture or temperature, where it lives in your body, how it makes you feel. Just spend some time here. It's really important to remember that words hold frequency and are spells. What you call in is what you will get. Careful what you wish for. My role as a space holder, as a coach, is to help my clients refine their intentions so they can conjure up the specific desired vision they hold for themselves to extract what they weren't conscious of as well, to go way beyond what's present on the top of their head. When clients come to me, they think they know what it's going to be about. But after we spend like an hour and 90 minutes doing this process, sometimes they often end up wowed and really surprised and often quite emotional with the intention they arrive at. Sometimes we set 2 to 3 intentions as well, maybe about different aspects. And they go much deeper into their body and womb's wisdom, often going way beneath what they think it's going to be about, what they think they're going to focus on, what words, what matters, what their priorities are, and actually arrive at what they desire to cultivate on a much deeper embodied level. Don't be afraid to take your time here. You've got the whole year to bring this to life. Once you have your intention, I always suggest to my clients they write out their intention, their affirmation out onto a beautiful piece of paper and put it somewhere they're going to see it every single day. I invite them as well to journal on its exact meaning to help it become clear to them everything it means. That's part of this process too. And the other thing I suggest is for them to make an altar for this intention, which is a living embodiment of that intention. So, altars, if you don't know what an altar is, it's a physical place that's in devotion to your intention, to yourself, to your practice, to whatever it is you're working with at the minute. And it can be a single item, or it can be a collection of trinkets. It can be, it's a setting, a spiritual devotional setting where you are creating something sacred that anchors you in the physical realm into your intention. You might want to place on it specific photos, flowers, foraged objects, candles, jewelry. Did I already say crystals? All kinds of things, oils, special objects, just something that reminds you and like invokes the energy of your intention and is a place that you can tend to, that you can return to, that's living and breathing and that can change as well. So I like to do this because it's a reminder so I don't forget. I like to also write my affirmation on beautiful paper and put it on my altar as well. So this is what I suggest for you. You might want to do this as well. Ultimately, I believe it's so important to not get totally fixated on your intention as being a goal, because your inner feminine desires the space and permission to flow, evolve, and transform, and your intention should do too. So let's let go of success and failure that resolutions often bring with it and breathe life instead into this embodied, feeling-based feminine intention and give it the freedom to shift and change as you do. And I want to share with you an example of this. So last year, 2022, I started my 4 seasons journey with the School of Shamanic Womancraft. And the intention that I set for myself right at the start of that year was I come home to my truest, wildest, sovereign self. And that felt really powerful for me. That lit me up on all the ways, in my body, in my soul, in my heart, in my emotions, in my womb, creatively, all the things. I was like, wow. But that intention changed several times over the year. And if I tried to hold on to that, I actually would have I did outgrow that intention before the year was up. Okay. And I was allowed, and I gave myself permission to let that evolve as I evolved. One of the iterations it was in the middle of the year was I come home to my truest, wildest, sensual, sovereign self. But by the end of the year, I ended up with I reclaim and embody my truest, wildest, sovereign, sexual self. And whoa, did that support me and fit me so well. It fit the inner journey that unfolded. At the start of the year, I wouldn't have ever picked those words. For example, the word sexual, when I thought about it, I think at some point earlier on in the year, I was like, ick. And I just felt like I wasn't ready to cultivate that and call that in. But around the mid-year, I knew it held great power because I was kind of resisting it. But I felt ready to call it in. And so my intention was changing and evolving. I knew I needed to include it. What we resist holds power. And I had to honor that pace. So by the end of the year, that charge was gone, and in its place was liberation. And I called that in. That spell worked. And it's a whole other story about that, how that intention unfolded for me. But I really want to invite you to let go of any constraints and rules about this process and do it for yourself. Take a cyclical, feminine approach. Do it for yourself. Once you have your intention, expand and clarify it. How do you want to keep coming back to it and remember it and feel connected to it and be devoted to it and let it evolve and share it with me? I would love to hear. You might want to message me, DM on Instagram, drop me an email. Just let me know what your intention is. I'd really love to hear it. And if you want support with your embodiment, your visions, your creations, your own transformation, your own deepening into your cyclical self this year, I've got new one-on-one Wild Feminine Cycle Coach spaces opening up this February. And I would love to hear from you, to talk with you about whether this is the right container for you, for us to work together. So blessings on the new year. So the new moon's coming up on the 22nd of January, 2023. Maybe the time between now and then can be about your visioning, setting your embodied intentions for the year. And maybe from the new moon at the end of January, that can be when you start to take action or start to come back, to emerge from hibernation, regardless of which hemisphere you're in, and let that be when your actions, your intentions start to take root and unfold for the year. Thank you so much for listening in. If you're loving this podcast and you'd love to help me spread the wisdom shared, please leave a review or rating or share this with somebody who you think would love to listen in. I'm really passionate about creating ripples of change and getting this information to more women, girls, and people with a cycle so that they can reclaim their cyclic natures too. And if you'd love to dive in deeper with learning more about how to connect with your cycle and rites of passages, come and join our free Wild Flow Circle community, or choose a course and learn with me on my online learning hub. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, be well and go with the flow of your cyclic nature.